Janice Harper was on her way home from the movies last July when Dunn caught her going 14 miles over the speed limit. Video from Dunn's dashcam shows within seconds of turning on his blue lights, Harper slowed down her speed, moved into the right lane, and switched on her hazard lights. About 2 minutes later, Dunn hit Harper's car, the maneuver causing Harper's SUV to spin, hit the median, and flip over. Dunn called an ambulance before walking over to help her.
Are you the only one in the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pregnant.
Well, ma'am, you've got to pull over when we stop. It doesn't matter, ma'am.
Arkansas State Driver's License Guide says if you're being pulled over, you should activate your turn signal or emergency flashers to indicate to the officer that you're seeking a safe place to stop. In the lawsuit, Harper says there was not a safe place to pull over, and she was following the correct procedures.
We call it a pit maneuver when people flee from us or don't stop from us.
Court documents say Dunn executed a negligently performed pit maneuver, which put her life and the life of her unborn child at risk.
I thought it would be safer to wait until the exit.
No, ma'am, you should pull over when law enforcement stops you, okay?
After Janice Harper's SUV flipped in a controversial pit maneuver last year, her attorney Andrew Norwood's first move was to seek a policy change.
We reached out to the state police numerous times before we filed a lawsuit, trying to amicably do this without the lawsuit.
But after getting nowhere and eventually filing a lawsuit against the state police, Norwood says the Arkansas Department of Public Safety and Governor Hutchinson wanted to hear them out.
They wanted to know what we had to say. They, we wanted policy change from the beginning. They were receptive to that.
Part of the state police's original vehicle pursuit policy states that the precision immobilization technique known as the pit maneuver should not be used on, quote, trucks with hazardous material, pickup trucks with passengers, vans, buses, or motorcycles.
You could do pit on anybody else at that point, which is a little scary, which is what essentially led to Ms. Harper's situation.
In a settlement with the state police, Norwood says his client's car accident led to a change that he originally requested. ASP revised the policy that states, quote, the tactic should only be used when an ASP officer objectively believes other exigent circumstances exist. Meaning this should only happen after tactics that don't prevent physical harm are unsuccessful. Norwood says he's happy he and his client were able to craft a policy that not only protects Arkansans, but allows state troopers to still do their job.
If one person does not have to go through what Ms. Harper went through that night, the fear and anxiety, well worth it.
Norwood says all criminal charges against Harper were dropped.
And late this afternoon, state police responded to the settlement, saying they have consistently required troopers to apply that objectively reasonable standard they spoke about there. They'll continue to do so, they say. An internal investigation did find Corporal Dunn violated use of force policies in this case.
He was disciplined, but state police tell us he remains on the job.
The frightening sound of skidding tires and crunching metal. An Arkansas State Police trooper deliberately flips an SUV after the driver refused to stop after he went to pull her over.
This incident made headlines in 2020, not because of the spectacular crash, but because the driver, a woman pregnant at the time, later sued the trooper. The case wound up in federal court where the state and the woman reached a settlement. 2 years later, law enforcement experts still consider the pit maneuver an important police tool.
Precision immobilization technique, which has actually been around since the 1980s.
Kevin Davis is in the Law Enforcement Hall of Fame. 4 decades of experience from concert crowd security to running a SWAT team. His life now is all about training cops on how and when to use force, including using vehicles to stop and catch suspects.
PIT is a specific technique that is a trained technique wherein the officer intentionally collides with the subject vehicle, forcing a spin out.
Arkansas troopers receive advanced training, and the agency policy about vehicle pursuits reflects that. But before and after the controversial 2020 case, if a trooper concludes reasonably and objectively that stopping a chase protects people, they can execute a pit.
I attempted to pit him before he got into town.
So how often do they actually do this? Looking at data from state police, they engaged in an average of 482 pursuits a year from 2018 through 2021. Troopers used a pit maneuver to stop a chase an average of 108 times. That equals about 2 a week. 3 suspects died, 204 others were injured, 43 troopers and 38 civilians were also hurt. Davis says a properly trained officer in a properly equipped vehicle can pit a suspect with a high degree of certainty and safety. But there's an important factor when making that decision.
Normally, the pit maneuver is not done at speeds in excess of 35 miles per hour.
Hands up! Hands up!
Normally. But then there are chases like this.
Driving in a dark blue Chevy truck with chip tags. He is going to be armed with rifle and handgun.
September 15th, 2022. Arkansas State Police Trooper Joseph Killian is alerted to an allegedly armed man barreling down I-40 toward North Little Rock at more than 100 miles an hour.
42 Little Rock. I'm 1037 with them.
The suspect truck swerving across all the lanes and shoulders while weaving through one of the busiest interchanges in the state, just before rush hour.
We'll be inside lanes, speeds over 110.
After 5 minutes, another trooper in the pursuit makes the call.
71 secondary, I got the radio. Just drive 40. When you get a chance, we get past this traffic, pit him.
Trooper Killian executes a pit, sending the suspect's truck into the median, parts flying. The trooper careens in front of oncoming traffic.
Pit, pit, pit.
All of this happening well above 35 miles an hour. So how can this be allowed?
And what we do is we balance the person's right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures with the government's countervailing interest to taking action or seizing the person.
We asked the new state police commander, Colonel Mike Hager, to explain. He couldn't meet us in person, but sent us a statement saying partially, the agency is intentional in training troopers to make these calls. State police prioritize 3 factors once a chase is on. Reduce the risk of serious injury, 1, to the innocent members of the public, 2, law enforcement involved, and then 3, the suspect trying to get away. And because they are trained, the option is available even at high speeds.
And if their perceptions are that this subject poses a risk of death or serious bodily harm to the innocent public, then, whether it's the use of a firearm or a pit maneuver or ramming, it can be used.
State police say troopers know the risks. Davis wonders if more criminals knew how a chase could end, they would think twice.
And the funny thing is that giving up in today's society, you're probably going to get low or reduced bail and get out. So the risks that you present to the innocent citizens out there, because you want to get away, is certainly substantial.
Just last week, an Arkansas State Police trooper performed a pit maneuver that resulted in the death of the suspect they were chasing. Since then, we received questions about the tactic.
THV11's Rebecca Brown took those questions to state police today and found out why and when that move is used.
Tactical vehicle interventions, or PIT maneuvers, are sparking conversations across the country. This is a reenactment of that tool that was most recently used by Arkansas State Police at the end of September. While officials say the maneuver is usually a last resort, it's becoming more common.
The higher the number of the pursuits, the higher number of the TVIs, and unfortunately, likely the higher number of injuries and sometimes even fatalities are going to occur.
In just the last few months, state police have performed 3 deadly pit maneuvers to stop fleeing suspects. Colonel Mike Hager says they never want the move to be fatal.
But at the end of the day, we are always going to maintain that clear priority of life, which is the innocent public, then the law enforcement, then the suspect.
Hager says it's also an issue of manpower.
The use of spike strips, or to where you could deflate the tires on a vehicle. In order to do that, you have to know where that vehicle is going. You have to have a trooper or a police officer set up in the exact area of where that suspect is going. The chances of that happening are very, very slim.
But now Arkansans are wondering if the maneuver is truly the best way to get a person to comply.
We're not going to, just hope that all the vehicles are passing on the shoulder, all the intersections are going through, that they're not going to hit someone, they're not going to kill your family, they're not going to kill my family. We've seen that happen, unfortunately. This is not theory. We know what's going to happen the longer we let that go on. So the reason that we believe it's the best tactic is because it's the most immediate tactic to bring that pursuit to a conclusion.
Hager says state police has reported 651 pursuits since the beginning of the year, and the state of Arkansas is on track to break an all-time record. And a reminder, Running from police is considered a felony here, and it could result in prison time.
When someone flees from law enforcement, it's like they're driving a bullet down the road.
855 Little Rock, head-on collision.
It could be your family or mine. Our troopers will not look the other way.
In a new PSA from Arkansas State Police, they are bringing attention to the act of fleeing.
It's trending upwards by quite a bit, especially in the central Arkansas area.
According to ASP, in 2017 for central Arkansas, there were 78 fleeing incidents. In 2022, they saw more than 4 times that amount, with 324.
We've seen years of people seeing that there's not just a great consequence for fleeing. We have a lot of law enforcement agencies that have decided not to pursue.
It's a pretty basic deal. When law enforcement is pulling you over, you stop.
But Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin and the state hope to change that. Legislators passed a new law this year that makes fleeing from police a Class D felony. If someone is prosecuted, they could spend 3 to 6 years in prison.
This is a serious crime. You are putting people at risk. We've had people more than once die as a result of someone acting like a fool, running from law enforcement.
Police hope this PSA will alert people of the new consequences, but ultimately keep innocent bystanders safe.
We will pursue you as far as the Arkansas State Police, and in doing that, we're going to do what's safest for the general public, and that a lot of times will be the use of a TVI, because that is what's safest for the public. It's not safest for the suspect, it's not safest for the trooper, but our oath is to protect the general public.